everyone, and welcome back to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSeco. Let's see what articles we will be discussing today from the Hindu and the Indian Express. Firstly, Empower the Youth First from the Hindu. So, almost a similar article we have discussed before as well as to how and why youth empowerment is critical and crucial if we want to achieve the very aim of Atmanirbhar Bharat. But in today's article, very nice facts and instances have been quoted, and that was the reason that we took up this article again for discussion. And the second article, Signs of Recovery from the Indian Express, talks specifically about the food price index or the rising or downfalling prices of food grains or food items at the global as well as Indian level. So we'll be discussing that in detail. And thirdly, we have the News in Flash column. But before we start, let's have a look at the LawSeco courses that we have for you. So at the center, we have the Lord of the Courses, that is the Judiciary Test Prep course. You can have a look at it, and we have the link there in the description box, and you can download the free study material for yourself from the very same page. We are shortly coming up with various other courses like the Law Optional for UPSC as well. Now let's see that what is the multiple choice question for the day. Which of the following statements is not correct about scramjet technology? So there was a discussion about the scramjet technology in today's IE, that is Indian Express paper as well. Firstly, this technology is used in faster testing of COVID-19. Second, scramjets are a variant of jet engines, also known as air-breathing engines. Third, scramjet can have a capability to travel at 6x, that is 6 times the speed of sound. Or fourth, none of the above. Please keep in mind that you have to point out the statement that is not correct amongst these four. Now here is the descriptive question for you all. Youth empowerment is one of the most important ways to achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat. Discuss. So you can write down the answer to this question in not more than 250 to 300 words in the comment section below as well. With this, let's start with the discussion for the day, which talks about India's youth population. Now, as we all know that India is known to be the youth country of the world, as in we say that approximately 65% of its total population in the current scenario falls in the category of youth. And this is considered to be one of the biggest of things that are in favor of the Indian system, because once you have youth in hand, you can definitely draw it up into an asset for the whole nation. But here is the biggest question that rises, is because you have youth, but if it is not trained well, it is not skilled, and it is not employable, there is no point having this youth. It will just be like any other population for any other country. And that is why it is really, really important for us to realize the importance of this youth population and the time constraint that we have to train and make this youth skillful. On the very same lines, today's article says that the goal of self-reliance, that is when we talk about being Atmanirbhar Bharat, can only be achieved when the citizens' capabilities are enhanced, especially the youth, which is aged from 15 to 29 years, according to the National Youth Policy 2014. So basically, according to the National Youth Policy 2014, the people or the citizens or the population from the age from 15 to 29 years falls in the category of what we call as youth. And it is said that if at all we want to achieve this goal of being self-reliant, we need to enhance the capabilities, especially of the youth. So if you also watching this news analysis, you fall into the age group of 15 to 29 years, then all of us, we are a part of the youth as categorized by National Youth Policy 2014. Now let's understand that what actually is the current situation of youth population in India, and what actually specifically is the spending that the government is making in enhancing these skills and training the youth in the country. So firstly, when we talk about the central government, it spends approximately rupees 2,710 per youth on education, skill development, employment, healthcare, and food subsidies. And this is again according to the National Youth Policy 2014. Now, please imagine that per person who falls in the category of being youth, on that person, only an amount of rupees 2,710, that is not even 3,000 rupees fully, are spent for his education, skill development, employment, healthcare, and food subsidies. Now, this is definitely evident enough that this amount being so small is definitely just not enough to train or make a youth very skillful. And if we talk about a cumulative thing, both central and the state governments spend less than 1% of GDP. Please just imagine that of the total GDP. Obviously, we know that there are a lot of other areas also where the government has to focus, but this thing, because this is something that you will not have forever, because India is a youth country, it will remain to be a youth country only for some more limited number of years, and it is not something that is perennial and going to stay forever. That is why we should prioritize this thing and use this time into making this demographic dividend instead of making it a demographic disaster. And till now, state and centers cumulatively spend less than 1% of GDP, whereas youth comprised of 27.5% of India's population. Now, as we say, if we talk about this age group, which is categorized by the NYP 2014, 27.5%. So all in all, if we make it a little broader, then we have approximately 65% of the youth population. But if we talk specifically about this age group of 15 to 29 years, so this comprises of 27.5% of India's population. And imagine that on this huge population, or this even more than a quarter of the population, only and only 1% of the total GDP is being spent for their development and skill enhancement. And the government is not very readily investing in youth and children costs. This actually, according to the World Bank report, it says that if you are not readily and properly investing into the cause of enhancing the skills and making educating the children, educating the youth, and making them more employable, you are actually losing approximately 4% of your GDP per year. This is a hypothetical situation, as in currently it is like maybe we are not able to calculate it, but if we are not investing properly into this area of youth and children, we are actually losing out onto 4% of our GDP per year, which is really, really huge. And if we talk about the employment situation, then 18.3%, which is approximately 2.47 crore of the youth population, and 33% of the skilled youth are unemployed, according to the 2018 State of Working India report. This is actually a very huge number, because when we are trying to build a stronger GDP, and when we try to promise a good livelihood, good resources to the people, then it all comes through mostly through the means of employment. But if we are not even able to provide employment even to the youth totally, and even to the skilled youth, then it is a big failure on the part of a society, because the entire potential of this youth is going into waste. Then around 2.7 crore youth jobs were lost in April 2020, obviously due to this scenario of COVID-19, and 30% neither have been employed and nor are in education. So this is also one of the biggest blemishes that we could have. And then Atmanirbhar UP Rozgar Yojana is a positive step, which has provided 1 crore jobs to this in this regard. Now, all of these facts do not have to be rote memorized, or you don't have to ratificate any of these. Just keep in mind a few of the reports and indices, like for example, the report from the World Bank or the report from the National Youth Policy, because these are very substantial things that you can definitely quote in your exam. And if any question, like even today, the descriptive question that we've given for the day, any fact or quote, some information quoted with such substantial resource or source, it actually gives you better points in your exam. So these should be kept in mind. Then the possible steps to address the issue. Obviously, let's see that what can we actually do to bring the situation under control. Firstly, launch Indian Youth Guarantee Program, which is approximately in lines with the European Union Youth Guarantee Program. So basically, the European Union Youth Guarantee was launched in 2010, when the youth unemployment over there was at as high as 20%. And this actually was there to ensure that all the people, or the young people under the age of 25 years, receive good quality offer of employment, continued education, apprenticeship, and traineeship. And if on the similar lines we would have the Indian Youth Guarantee Program as well, then we would also be able to offer these, at least these 4 areas or these 4 perks to the youth population in India. Then the Indian Youth Guarantee will ensure, in the context of India, employment for graduating students and youth who lost job, by assisting in finding a good quality job and acquire skills required. So whatever the things that will be required for finding a good job and all the skills that would be required would be fulfilled through the Indian Youth Guarantee Program. And then the second step that can be taken is create a youth component plan. Now, this almost will work in line with the IYG, that is the Indian Youth Guarantee, and it would be formulated by states, union territories, as well as the central government, and it would separate some percentage of funds for the scheduled caste and tribal subplan as well. So this actually would make sure that no section of the society, or specifically in the youth, no section is left apart, and all have been given the required resources to develop their skills and gain better chances of having good kind of employment. So this was all for this article. Let's discuss the second one, which talks about global food price and the Indian economy. Now, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization's Global Food Price Index has risen for the third successive month to 96.1 in August 2020, up 2% from January and 2.2% from June 2020. Basically, these are a lot of facts and numbers which might confuse us, but the simple thing is that United Nations Food Agriculture Organization, it actually takes out, or it actually works upon giving the global food price index. We'll just see as to what do we mean by the food price index. So basically, it has risen, that is, it has increased 3 times successively after it had a lot of shortfall. It had fallen down since the lockdown was brought in. Basically, the food price index is a measure of the monthly change in international price of a basket of food commodities. Basically, to calculate the food price index, just imagine in your hand you have a huge basket. Now you put some particular things into the basket. For example, you put some onions, you put some cereals, you put some rice, you put some fruits, you put some oil, vegetable oil, you put some extra edible items, etc. and etc. So this entire basket that has various kind of food commodities, you have it in your hand. This food basket is prepared in a general scenario as to what are the general things that are consumed by the people in terms of food. Now, this could be wheat, this could be oat, rice, any kind of cereal, milk products, or anything that is actually that actually forms the food commodity. Now, once this basket is compiled in your hand, you actually try to calculate as to what is the price of each item. For example, if in fruits you have apple, and if in some cereal you have some kind of pulse. Now, if slowly and slowly the changes or any kind of fluctuation takes place in the prices of the individual items, for sure the change will be there in the price of this complete food basket, right? Like, for example, if you have 5 items in total in your food basket in your hand, and if the price of any of these items rises significantly, right? For example, very recently we saw that the prices of onion had risen to sky high limits, like it was being sold for 150, 160 rupees per kg as well. So imagine if you had onion in your food basket, won't your food basket in totality be costly as well? Definitely. So that is how the food price index is calculated, and it is a monthly change in the international price of the food basket. So please keep in mind, it is the international, this food price index for the FAO, which is brought by the Food and Agriculture Organization. It is an international price change which takes place in the food basket, and it comprises of average of 5 commodity, like we said. So it has 5 commodities group price indices weighted by the average export shares of each. So basically, that is the basic idea of having a food price index. And by consumer price index, we mean measures changes in the price level of weighted average market based of food, of consumer goods and services purchased by household. Now, almost the same thing, that what is the changes in the prices of those particular things would be considered as the consumer price index. Now let's understand that what actually this successive rise in the food price index actually signify, or what does this indicate? Firstly, it indicates a steady demand recovery. Basically, just imagine that there is a market and some particular good is sold in that market. Now, the people are not really demanding that good, and not more people really want that good to buy that good. It could be anything. Like, for example, there is a particular kind of shoes for that matter, and you see that the people are not really demanding shoes because they prefer to wear slippers for that, for example. Okay. So if a particular shopkeeper has those shoes and nobody is ready to buy them, will he be able to sell those shoes at a price higher, or will he be wanting to sell it at least even for a price lower? Definitely, he would want that it should be sold even if it is sold at a price lower than it actually deserved. So this is how demand actually makes it actually regulates the price of a particular thing. Now, just take an example opposite to this. For example, now here a very good quality shoe is there in the market, and this particular shopkeeper has these shoes. Now, a lot of people want these shoes, and only five pair of shoes are available. Now, this shopkeeper would be in a capacity to sell this in a higher price or not? Yes, because the number of people who are demanding these pair of shoes are too many as compared to the number of pieces or the pairs of shoes that are available, and that is why the prices of these things would rise. This basically is the idea of having inflation. Basically, inflation is more number of people chasing less number of goods. That is, people are willing and ready to pay even a higher price to avail a particular product. This was the very situation in the case of onion price rise as well, because the quantity of onion that was available in the market was very less as compared to the number of people demanding for onions, and that is why the prices of onions had risen so highly. Now, when we are seeing that the prices of food index or the food items is rising, what can we construe from this? That the demand is rising, and that is why the prices of these particular things are rising. Because had the people not been demanding things, then definitely the seller would not have been able to sell them at a higher price. But now, the food price index being rising, it definitely signifies that there is a steady demand recovery. That is, people are now demanding, and they're getting more into the economic thing. They're getting into the market and demanding more and more products. Basically, this demand is led by China as the consumer food inflation increased to 13.2% year-on-year basis, increased Chinese imports from the US, basically weak dollar. So basically, for us, it is important to understand that an increase in the food price index signifies a steady increase in the demand as well, or some kind of recovery is there in the demand as well. And secondly, resumption of a trend that was interrupted by the COVID-19. Now, as we know, because obviously when there was lockdown, the economic situation was not good. People had lost their jobs. They were trying to save a lot of money. So definitely they did not want to spend a lot. And due to this, the entire cycle was interrupted by from the end of COVID-19. But now the food price index if we compare it to the previous situation, the FPI had hit a 61-month high in January as the supply was disrupted. And with economic activity being restored, the previous shortages are being fulfilled. So whatever shortages were there earlier, now they are being fulfilled, and that is why people are demanding more. So the supply uncertainty in future due to dry weather in US Midwest, Argentina and France, and a forecast of developing La Nina. So basically, we need to understand that what actually do we mean La Nina, and how this is in a way, though not a very good news for the United States and other producers of food items in the western side of the world, but it is still a good news for India. Basically, La Nina is a process which is just opposite of El Nino. You might have heard these terms in geography. Basically, La Nina is cool in nature. So basically, it causes cooling in the surface of the ocean water, whereas on the opposite, El Nino causes the warming of the surface water, or the water that is available on the surface of the ocean. Basically, the only thing that we need to understand here is that La Nina creates such situations that can actually make a complete hurricane. Now, as we know that this is the United States of America, this is the western coast of the United States of America, which is the Pacific Ocean. This side we have the Atlantic Ocean. Now here, if in case La Nina starts developing, then there is a very high chance that a hurricane starts developing, which will be very detrimental for any kind of activities that are going on the mainland USA. And that is why USA is in a bit of worry. But if we talk about India, since India falls somewhere to this side over there, and we actually take the benefit of La Nina because it gives us very good rains, and even sometimes rabi crops that are grown in the winter seasons, they need some kind of rains, and it is a good news for us. Also, we know that India's only sector that was not very disrupted by COVID-19 was agriculture, and thus we can definitely reap good benefits out of it as well. So we have almost discussed all of this, and as we know that La Nina's rain will benefit the winter spring rabi crop. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good session for you, and let's just quickly do it with the news and flash column. So firstly is the scramjet technology. The DRDO, that is the Defense Research and Development Organization, has successfully flight tested the Hypersonic Technology Demonstrator Vehicle. You need to keep this name in mind, HSTDV, which is Hypersonic Technology Demonstrator Vehicle, which is an unmanned scramjet. So please keep in mind also that this is unmanned. That is nobody, no astronaut or nobody is there inside this entire system, with a capability to travel 6 times the speed of sound. A confusing question in prelims may arise where it would say that it can travel 6 times the speed of light. Please don't be confused. This is 6 times the speed of sound and not light. Then scramjets, basically they are a variant of jet engines known as the air breathing engines. So that is the very reason why they can actually travel at this high speed, as high as 6 times the speed of sound. So the test was conducted at Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Launch Complex at Wheeler Island, which is off the coast of Odisha. And second, 75th round of National Sample Survey has taken place, and according to its report on household social consumption education in India, it provided a state-wise detail of literacy rate among the person aged 7 years or above. So it has been topped by Kerala with having 96.2% of literacy rate, which was followed by Delhi, 88% approximately, then Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. So Andhra Pradesh is the worst performer with 66% of the literacy rate, followed by Rajasthan, which is 69.7%. So these facts should be kept in mind. This can be also a very potential prelims question. So then we are done for the day. We hope it was a good session for you. Stay tuned with Law Seekho for such more sessions to come. Thank you so much.